And I'm back. I haven't posted a video in 1 month, but today's video, I want to touch on my own analysis of this latest report from the National Association of Realtors. The reason why I selected this report to go over in today's video is because this monthly report from the Realtors Association probably gets the most media attention. And of course, in my own video, or in my video today, I'll share my own analysis of their data, provide some context and analysis that you won't see anywhere else. Thank you so much for joining me in today's video. And also for those of you who have been waiting for me to post a video, again, I apologize. I had to take a break to recharge my batteries, and we had a couple of vacations that we planned, so I was out of town. Anyways, I want to provide this report for you guys. Again, just posted on January 19th, about 2 weeks ago here. It says existing home sales on a national level retreated in December, according to the National Association of Realtors. It says here all 4 U.S. regions experienced year-over-year sales decreases. And by the way, in today's video, I'll provide some analysis about what happened regarding home prices and home sales for the entire year of 2023, how that compares to years past. So regarding the U.S. regions here, they break this down in the West, the Midwest, the Northeast, and also the South. This is how it breaks down right here. So here's a report here looking at home sales for each of these major regions. So for the U.S. as a whole, there was 3.78 million. That was the sales base. Again, the seasonally adjusted annualized sales pace for December was just under 3.8 million. And that's a decrease of 1% compared to November and down 6.2% year over year. Now, again, every housing market's different, right? Your city can vary greatly depending on what's happening in the nation. And of course, each of the regions can vary as well. As you can see right here, the Northeast was flat on a month-to-month basis, whereas the West surged by 7.8%. That was December sales pace compared to November. On a year-over-year basis, though, all 4 U.S. regions decreased. And actually, we saw the biggest declines in the Northeast, down by 9.6%. And the Midwest fell by about 11%. Now, when accounting for the fact regarding the total number of actual home sales for the entire year of 2023, it came in at 4,087,000. That was down 9.2% compared to the previous year. And in fact, the biggest declines were actually in the Northeast, down by 11.1% and down by 12.7% in the Midwest, whereas the South and the West decreased by around 7%. So now that we know that the total number of home sales, this is existing home sales for single-family houses, condos, co-ops, and townhouses, I should say. So just under 4.1 million, as you can see right here, based on my nerdy Excel formula here. So by my own analysis of NAR's data here, at 4.087 million, that's the lowest levels since 1995. In other words, a 28-year low regarding closed home sales in the U.S. for the whole year of 2023, which is quite remarkable because that is actually less than what we saw back in 2008. So for example, 2008, it was about 4,110,000. Now we're under 4.1 million. Again, the lowest number of closed home sales for the entire year since 1995, when at that time there was about 3.85 million. In regards to that, that's exactly what the National Association of Realtors had to say as well. Because on an annual basis, existing home sales decreased to the lowest levels since 1995. They also mentioned that the median sold price reached an all-time record high of just under $390,000. How they came up with that figure, though, was the median sold price for the entire year of 2023 and compare that to 2022. A small gain from 2022, which was the previous all-time record high, and now it's at nearly 390,000. I'll provide an additional analysis regarding home sold prices here in just a little bit. Regarding existing home sales, which are completed transactions that include single-family houses, townhomes, condos, and co-ops. That decreased by 1% compared to the previous month, which was November, to a seasonally adjusted annualized rate of 3.78 million for the month of December. Year-over-year sales, though, decreased by 6.2%. Okay, with that said, let's get a little bit nerdy here because here's my own analysis of their data here. These two columns, which is the date and also the seasonally adjusted annualized pace of closed home sales of existing houses on a national level. That is actually the only data I pulled from the National Association of Realtors website. Everything else is based on my own analysis here. So again, this December, it came at 3.78 million. That was actually below the forecast, which was at 3.82 million. Also, that current sales pace, or I should say December sales pace of 3.78 million is actually the slowest sales pace going back to August of 2010. In other words, the pace of closed home sales in December was nearly was a 13-year low. Now, something to keep in mind as well, when looking at closed home sales for December, for example, that's really what our housing market was like back in October and November when home buyers got their offer accepted. So if you got your offer accepted on November 1st, chances are you would close escrow or the house would be yours in December. So let's look at what were the average mortgage rates back in October and November, which really impacted closed home sales in December here. So closed sales in December were mostly for purchase contracts signed, or again, offers being accepted back in October, when the average monthly rate, according to Freddie Mac, was at 7.6%, and then it decreased to 7.4% in November. Now, keep in mind, though, the rate back in October at 7.62% was actually the highest monthly rate since November of 2000. So, of course, having said that, it makes sense that home sales remained very, very low in December. Also, like I mentioned previously, sales actually decreased compared to November as well, down by 1%. The forecast, by the way, was calling for a gain of 0.3%. So it came in below the street's forecast here. Home sales have also gone down for 20 out of the past 23 months. How wild is that? There's basically only 3 months in which home sales were going up, but down in 20 of the past 23 months. One thing to keep in mind, though, I mentioned this over the past several months, is that last year this time, sales decreased much greater compared to this year. So for example, this December down by 1%, but in December of 2022, home sales fell by 2.2%. So therefore, the market was falling much faster in 2022 compared to the last half of 2023. We also can see this similar scenario here back in October and November as well. Don't take my word for it, though. Look at this. So in October of 2022, home sales decreased by 5.1%. That was a decrease in sales from September through October, the month-to-month change, down by 5.1%. But in October of 2023, it decreased only by 4.1%. Then in November last year, or 2022, I should say, it decreased by 7.2% in one single month, whereas November of 2023, it actually increased by 0.8%. And also last December, it fell by 2.2%, whereas this last December 2023, it fell by 1%. So overall, home sales were falling much faster in the last half of 2022 compared to the last half of 2023. And that's actually one of the reasons why the year-over-year changes are not as bad as what they were back in 2022. So for example, in December 2023 compared to December of 2022, the year-over-year change fell by 6.2%. That actually was the smallest annual decrease since March of 2022. So for example, back in March of 2022, it fell only by 5.8%, whereas this year it decreased by 6.2%, which is not as bad as December of 2022, where home sales tanked by 33.8%. So as a note right here, big picture, the year-over-year declines are not as great as what they were back in 2022 or last half of 2022 compared to last half of 2023. And this, of course, is because the market was falling big time in 2022, and the sales pace in December of 2022 were already at very low levels. In fact, back in December of 2022, the sales pace back then was 4,030,000 closed home sales. That actually was the slowest pace since November of 2010. So in other words here, it's very challenging to drop another, let's just say another 30%, given the fact that back in December of 2022, we were already at very, very low levels. One more thing I do want to add regarding this table here is that this marks actually the 29th consecutive months in which sales were down on a year-over-year basis. In other words, we have more than 2 years of declines on a year-over-year basis. The last time home sales were up was back in July of 2021. Okay, let's change gears slightly here and talk about home prices. And when I'm talking about home prices in today's video, I'm talking about the median sold price in the US, unless otherwise noted here. So overall in the US, for December, the median sold price, not seasonally adjusted, came in at just under $383,000. That was up by 4.4% compared to December of 2022. Home prices increased the most actually in the Northeast, increasing by 9.4% over the past 12 months, whereas the South only increased by 3.8%. The West increased by 4.8%, and the Midwest increased by 6%. So that is their analysis here. Let me share my own analysis. So again, for the year as a whole, the median sold price for the entire year came in at just under $390,000, an all-time record high for data that goes back until 1989. Look at that, 1989. The median sold price was $94,000. Absolutely crazy. I know that rates were around 15% back then, but still, $94,000 compared to $390,000 right now. So in any case, looking at the annual change in prices, the annual change only increased by 0.9%. Again, the median sold price for the entire year of 2022 compared to 2023, a small gain of 0.9%. Over the past 2 years, we saw a gain of 11% and a giant increase of 31.4% over the past 3 years, going from just under $300,000 in 2020. Now it's at more or less $390,000. Let's also look at prices this last December. So last December, last year, it was at $382,600 for the nation as a whole. That actually marked a 9-month low in the median sold price nationwide. The last time prices were that low was back in March of 2023. So these prices, keep in mind, are not seasonally adjusted. Therefore, it's normal to see prices decrease in the winter months. So I would kind of call this a decline in prices due to seasonality. But I also want to share this with you guys as well, because prices decreased by 1.3% on a month-to-month basis. And now prices have decreased for 6 consecutive months, which again is seasonal. For comparison's sake though, home prices fell by 1.6% in December of 2022. Whereas this December, I should say last December, December 2023, prices decreased by 1.3%. So therefore, prices were falling faster at this time in 2022 compared to this time in 2023. The same goes for October and November as well. So for example, this December down by 1.3%, whereas last December, or the previous December, it decreased by 1.6%. In November 2022, compared to October 2022, it decreased by 1.6%, whereas November 2023, month to month, it only decreased by 1%. Also in October 2022, it decreased by 1.2%, whereas October 2023, it only fell by 0.3%. So as you guys can see here, the market was falling faster in the last half of 2022 compared to last half of 2023. One thing though that is different though here is that this decline on a month-to-month basis, down by 1.3%, is worse than the average going back to 2010. So for example, the average December, this is the average change from November to December each and every year going back to 2010, is a decline of 0.1%, whereas this year it decreased by 1.3%. All right, that was the month-to-month changes. Let's have a look at the yearly changes here, or the year-over-year changes. Because this December, it increased by 4.4% compared to December of 2022. That marked the 6th consecutive yearly increase. Also, this is quite the turnaround because back in May of 2023, home sold prices decreased by 3%. So therefore, the year-over-year trends are improving due to the market falling faster in 2022 compared to 2023. However, though, the gain of 4.4% year over year is actually much worse than the average going back to 2010, because the average is a gain of 6.2%, quite a bit higher than the 4.4% we saw this December. But wait, there's more, because I also want to share how the prices or how home prices have changed over the past several years here. So over the past 2 years, this is December of 2021, when prices were at 359,000 more or less. Now it's at 382,000 approximately. That's a gain of 7% over the past 2 years. Over the past 3 years, since December of 2020, prices have surged by 24%. Also, a giant increase of 39% since December of 2019, and also a giant increase of 50% over the past 5 years. Also, if you guys are looking for a housing market crash, if you guys think we're going to see a housing market be in worse off than 2008, here's what happened in December of 2007 through December 2008, a giant decrease of 15%, whereas this last December, an increase of 4.4%. Okay, let's change gears slightly here and talk about inventory levels here. So on a national level, total housing inventory by the end of December was at 1 million units, down 11.5% from November, but down 4.2% from 1 year ago. That 1 million units, I believe, includes some pending home sales, because that figure there is much higher compared to Realtor.com as well as AltosResearch.com. In any case, though, we're still down by 4.2% from 12 months ago. Also, the month supply in December was only at 3.2 months. That was down from 3.5 months we saw back in November, and up though compared to the 2.9 months we saw back in December of 2022. So in regards to that, here's our good Uncle Fred here looking at inventory levels over the past 12 months. So right now it's at 1 million, down greatly from the 1.15 million we saw back in October of 2023. But at 1 million units, it's still above the 960,000 we saw 12 months ago. Also regarding the month supply at 3.2 months, this is down from the peak at 3.6 months back in October. But at 3.2 months, this is still higher compared to 12 months ago at 2.9 months. Also, based on their monthly survey here, days in the market was at 29 days in December. That was up from 25 days in November, and also a little bit higher compared to the previous year at 26 days. Also, 56% of houses that sold in December were on the market for less than 1 month. About a year and a half ago, back in the spring months of 2022, this number right here was around 85% on the market for less than 1 month. So the housing market is not nearly as crazy it was back in 2022. I should say the first half of 2022. Also, first-time home buyers purchased around 29% of all home sales in December. That was down from the 31% in the previous month and also from 1 year ago as well. All cash sales, again, based on a survey, not actual numbers, was at 29% in December, up from 27% in the previous month and also up from the 20% we saw in December of 2022. Individual investors or second home buyers purchased 16% of all houses in December, down from 18% in November and identical to 1 year ago. Also looking at distressed home sales, which are defined by foreclosures and short sales, only represented 2% of all home sales in December, unchanged from last month and also from 1 year ago as well. So thank you so much for watching today's video. I really appreciate you guys watching today's video, especially if you guys are still watching. If you are, please hit the like button. I greatly appreciate that. And I'll see you on the next video. And I'll probably make a video in the next couple of days. I have a video for you guys I want to make regarding some trickery that home builders are doing right now that, in my opinion, you guys should be aware of. So stay tuned for that video. I'll post that probably in the next couple of days. In any case, thank you so much for watching today's video. I appreciate you so much. Have an awesome day, and we'll see you in the next video.